Ciao, today I'm cooking another very iconic Italian dish called pollo alla cacciatora, slightly modified, but there are many variations in Italy. As always, I'll run you through the ingredients first and then I'll make a start. So you're going to need a chicken, of course, pollo is chicken, and I will be using from the garden. This is all fresh from Julie's garden. I got some garlic, some carrots, potatoes. This is a beautiful big, look at the size of this bay leaf over here. And in terms of herbs, I will be using some sage, which I just picked from the garden outside. This is mint and rosemary. And here I got some baby carrots. They look really nice. From the freezer department, I've got a couple of chili peppers, which I freeze. And also these are frozen also. When we go on holiday, we find that we've got some vegetables left in the freezer, like tomatoes. I just throw them in the freezer and they're perfect for cooking. Not anymore for salads, but they're very good. I will also be using some white wine vinegar and also some dry white wine. This is plain flour. And I've got here some dried tomatoes. I keep them in olive oil over here, but I'm not sure if I've got enough. I will be also using some olives and some dried tomatoes, so I'll see. Of course, I've also got some salt and pepper and olive oil. So I'll go through the cooking process and I'll explain some of the variations and changes that you can make. So let's make a start. And I'll start by searing the chicken first. So a little olive oil in a large pan or casserole, whatever you've got available. Now I've got a little confession to make. As when I bought this chicken, the idea was that I would only use half. So I cut it in half. And then I made a silly boy error by placing it in a bag, the same bag in the freezer. So I've got no choice than actually cooking it whole today, but you'll see that it's already in two halves. So the recipe clearly is for one whole chicken, but you can half the ingredients and only make half. But actually I don't mind that because to an extent it's better use of electricity. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So I'm placing it inside the pan. And I've got temperature is medium-high, number 7 now. And I'll start with the skin side down first. And I'll leave it for a good couple of minutes until the skin has changed colour. Literally, within a couple of minutes you can see that I've changed in colour, so I'll turn it around and I'll leave it for another couple of minutes. And that is enough, a couple of minutes and it can come off, and I'll put it on a plate and I'll leave it on one side. By now you'll have spotted that there is a little bit of the crust of the chicken attached to the pan. That is perfect. Do not go and wash it up, by the way. I'll put this on one side and I'll start on the vegetables. So here are my potatoes. I have given them a good scrub and I'm going to cut them in half. It's only Julie and I eating tonight, so I'm not doing that many potatoes. So there we go, half. And with the garlic, by the way, this is really fresh from our garden, so I'm going to leave the skin on, but of course I will remove this root over here, and I'll just go and chop a good half. Then I'll go back and I'll cut it into quarters like this, and it's ready. So here is my pan back and still cold, and I'll put all of my potatoes and garlic inside it. And I'll turn the heat back on and I'll add just a little bit more olive oil, not a lot this time though. And whilst the oil heats up, I'll go at the bottom of my pan and using a wooden spatula, I'll start scraping off the lovely crust that the chicken has left. Temperature at the moment is on a medium-high and they've been seasoning for about a couple of minutes. And this is when I'm going to add a full glass of dry white wine. It's going to be noisy. And I'll turn the temperature up on maximum as I want the wine to boil, and I'll start deglazing the bottom of my pan. And this is really lovely because all of that beautiful crusty layer from the chicken is going to be dissolved with the wine and it will release some amazing flavors. And if you look, actually you can see that the bottom of my pan is beginning to look very clean now. So I'll turn it down and I'll go and get the chicken. I need to mention carrots, by the way. I will be using baby carrots today, and in my case, as they are very tender, I have decided that they can go at the end for garnishing purposes. But if you've got normal carrots from your supermarket, this is when you add them alongside the potatoes. So the chicken is gone in, and I will now leave it on a medium-high temperature until the alcohol from the wine has completely evaporated. Undoubtedly, you will have also spotted that I placed the chicken on top of my potatoes. That is on purpose. I like the idea that the chicken doesn't touch the bottom of the pan, and the flavor from the potatoes and the wine and so on rises and it goes through the chicken. So next, now that the alcohol smell has evaporated, I'm going to add my massive bay leaf. I'll put it over here so that it releases even more flavor. Also, I will add some salt and some pepper, and I will not be adding any more salt and pepper. That will be pretty much it, and you can be as generous as you like with pepper. My chili peppers are here, so I'll place them inside. They've actually defrosted by now, and I will place the lid next, and I will leave it to gently now simmer for about 35 minutes. 35 minutes because it's a whole chicken. If you were to cook a half a chicken, 25 minutes would also be good. So temperature medium low, 5 is in my case, actually it's medium, maybe 4. If you go gas hob, then it's on minimum, and I'll see you in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I've just come up with a wonderful idea, and having got this beautiful fresh garlic head from Julie's garden, I thought I'd make some breadcrumbs, toasted breadcrumbs with it, which will go very nicely on top at the end. So again, I'm gonna be crushing, this is a quarter effectively of the head. I've been very generous because it's very, very young. We literally was under the ground about 15 minutes ago, so it's not going to be as strong. So I'll put that inside my little pan over here. And the smell also is not as aggressive as garlic that you buy from supermarkets. I suspect it's because it has not been aged. It's really, really nice, actually, quite mild. The hob is off at the moment, by the way, so I'm going to add some olive oil. And these are breadcrumbs which I keep in the freezer because they were made with fresh bread or stale bread at the time. I've decided to go for this particular type of breadcrumbs rather than the dry ones which I normally use, just to see what it's like. Normally I would make toasted breadcrumbs using the dry breadcrumbs, but I'm very curious to see what it turns out like, so I'm using the frozen ones. The one thing I do like about cooking is that there is no real right or wrong. You can experiment as much as you like or as little as you want. At the end of the day, it's your kitchen, it's your food, and there isn't really a rule, and this is not different here really. So I decided that I'm going to be combining the same herbs that I will be using for the chicken later with my breadcrumbs. So I'm chopping them quite finely. So I go here rosemary, sage and mint, and in they go with my breadcrumbs mix. Normally I would have added the herbs at the end once the breadcrumbs are cooked and toasted, but bearing in mind that these are breadcrumbs which were frozen fresh, I think actually they will release some water, and that will help the herbs release even more flavor. But I'll start on a very high heat, number 9, as you can see. It's beginning to sizzle. I'm not sure if you can hear it, so I'll turn it down now, number 7, medium high, and I'll continue toasting them until they change in color and they start releasing some lovely flavor. And if you are as passionate as garlic as we are, you can actually go ahead and crush it using your spoon, or just leave it whole if you like. Oops, making a mess. Or if you are not too keen, you do not have to actually add it in at all, or you just remove it. But in my case, I'm going to leave it in there as it is cooking nicely. So this has been now cooking for about 4 minutes, so I'll turn them off, and I'm going to add a little salt and a little pepper. And I'll give them one final mix. I have to say the smell is really, really good, and so simple also. And I'll just try some to see what it's like, and I'll let you know. Very hot though. They're lovely. Lovely and crunchy, and very flavorful. Different to the dry ones, they retain a little bit of moisture, so I'm really pleased. So I will leave this for the end, as they will go on top of the chicken. And while I wait, I'll get my other ingredients ready. So as you know, I'm using fresh mint, fresh sage and fresh rosemary. If you do not have access to fresh herbs, by all means you can also use the dry stuff, and you can find dry rosemary, sage and mint in any supermarket, by the way. But I'm going to be chopping this very finely, and use as much as you like, really. We are very keen on herbs, so I'm going to be quite generous. But as I always do with these things, I'll go along with my knife and I'll chop them all together. And even though I have to chop them either, by the way, you can leave them whole, but if you do chop them, they will release more flavor. By the way, although this is called chicken alla cacciatora or pollo alla cacciatora, pollo alla cacciatora stands for hunter-style chicken. Originally, it was made with a rabbit, and the idea was that the hunter in the morning would go hunting for rabbits, and then they would make this dish. However, occasionally he would come back empty-handed, and they would have chickens, and the chicken would look up to see if there were any rabbits, and if there were no rabbits they would be really worried. And they then adapted the recipe by using chicken whenever they didn't use rabbits. Also, I will be adding some vinegar. I've actually just added my frozen tomatoes. They are optional, by the way, you do not have to add them. Also, you can add tin tomatoes if you wish. What was I saying? Oh yes, the other thing is that I will be using some vinegar in a little while, and the vinegar, it's one of those things that poor people used to add to meat, and when they used to get the leftover from the butcher. That is because the meat that they would get was a little bit on the mature side, and it'd be smelly, and the vinegar would have actually masked some of the smell. But then they realized that it was really beautiful, and that has been adapted. So I'm now adding the rest of the ingredients. It's been simmering for a good 30 minutes. So you see me putting in my mixed herbs and my tomatoes. Here are my olives, and I always say with these things, it's entirely up to you how much you put in. I'm going to be putting enough for a couple of people, so I'm going to put good 3 or 4 spoons. Here we go. I keep these in olive oil, as you might have seen in one of my videos, and they last forever as they are kind of pickled. I also keep sun-dried tomatoes with my olives, but I haven't got enough in there, so I've decided to supplement it with some sun-dried tomatoes, which I keep in this little box. They come from Sicily, by the way. And again, you can put as little or as much as you like. I did say that I can give you some variations. So instead of adding olives or sun-dried tomatoes, you can add capers if you want, or you can add capers as well as olives and sun-dried tomatoes. But be careful, because this meal is about the chicken and not necessarily about all of the other ingredients. So capers and olives can be, and sun-dried tomatoes can be quite overpowering. So if you do put them in, also make sure that you don't put too much. I mentioned vinegar, and this is white wine vinegar, 25 milliliters, and I'll pour it on the side like so, and I'll turn the temperature up now, and I'll wait until the vinegar and all of the ingredients combine together. And this is another optional process, you do not have to follow it, but I've added some cold water to my flour, and I'm mixing it until all of the flour has dissolved. If you look, can you see it's all gone? Make sure that you do use cold water, and you will find that it's considerably easier. If you don't fancy using flour, by the way, you can also use corn flour instead, which actually has got no taste whatsoever, but quantities are very small, so I don't mind too much. So I'll just pour it in. And what this will do, by the way, it will thicken the sauce, as it will be very liquidy, and it will be lovely and creamy at the end. And now that I've added the remainder of all of my ingredients, I can turn the temperature down once again, and I'll place the lid on, and I'll leave it to cook for another 30 minutes, 25-30 minutes, until the chicken is cooked. To taste it, you can pierce it and make sure that there are no more pink liquid coming out. However, for the last 10 minutes, I will remove the lid so that I can assess if it's still too liquidy, so that some of the water evaporates. So I'll see you in about 30 minutes. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. I've been joined by my favorite camera lady, the best in the world, by the way. So here is the chicken. It's actually been cooling down now for about 15 minutes. It was really hot. So I am going to attempt to make a beautiful display today. So I've got my little carrots already inside my dish. Here goes the chicken.
Looks divine. It smells so lovely too.
You will recall that I left all of the potatoes at the bottom, and I'm going to use this spoon with some holes first, because I will leave the juice for last. So I'll just start going around the plate and filling it up. I did say earlier that I was making enough vegetables for dinner tonight. So the other half I will leave it to cool down completely, then I'll put it in a plastic bag and I'll put it in the freezer. Also, some of the gravy, I'll put it inside a little container, and once it's cooled down, that will also go in the freezer. And I've got options. When I want to defrost it, I can do the vegetables again if I want and replicate the dish. And all I need to do is just cook a few potatoes and carrots or whatever on the hob. Or, better still if you like, you can use the chicken as a condiment for something else. So for example, you can make a pasta and you got that lovely gravy also, or you can make it with rice or polenta. It gives you options. The good thing, of course, is that you will only have used one set of electricity and you save money. So this is beginning to look really, really nice, and I think I've done a very good job actually. Look at that, Julie. So the last thing I want to do before we taste it, I'll just pick some of my beautiful sauce. I keep calling it juice. And I'll just pour it on top of the chicken, and it will make it lovely moist. So I'll put this out of the way, and we will get the breadcrumbs next, the little Sicilian touch. And here they are. They've obviously cooled down, and I'll just go along and sprinkle them on top.
They'd be lovely on a soup as well, actually, they would.
They would,
I did have a little nibble earlier, and they were lovely, so they'd be lovely on a soup.
When? I don't remember seeing you.
I came and grabbed some.
I was actually editing this very video. That's what happens when I have gaps in between. I'll go and edit to see what it looks like, and then Julie finds that things are cooked and she pinches them. So this is ready, so I'll have a little test next, and I'll tell you what it's like. Of course, if you look, you can see that it's beautifully cooked. It's all white, not pink, and I'm ready to go. A little, I think a little olive would not go amiss. I think it's one of my best. The crunchiness of the breadcrumbs is beautiful, but also the vinegar, I only put 25 milliliters in. It's got a little bite, which is really, really nice, and the chicken is very moist, really nice. And it smells delicious, the whole house. you can smell these. The last thing I wanted to say was, if you wanted a little bit more with a kick, you can add a little bit more vinegar if you want, or if you don't like vinegar very much, put a little less or don't put any at all. But the vinegar is a signature for this dish. So try and let me know how you get on, and hopefully you make it. Arrivederci, grazie, and as always, buon appetito. Ciao ciao.